So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and addressing this crowd. It's been a great past few days listening to a lot of interesting conversations around education. So I'm going to be mindful about the fact that lunchtime is around the corner, so I'm going to make it simple and quick. So my name is Mumshad Mannam Bath, and I'm first and foremost a teacher, an educator, and also the founder of Code Cloud. At Code Cloud, we help students and college students and IT professionals level up their skills in trending technologies and get better jobs or get better at their jobs. So we are a hands-on training platform, online platform, and we provide everything that the student needs to gain that hands-on experience that they need to really excel in their career. So I was going through some of my old footages, archives from college days, and found this interesting video of myself sleeping in my Linux classroom. That's about 15 years ago. And I just thought this would be a good way to start my talk. Because I wasn't sleeping because I was not interested in the subject. You know, it was a Linux class, and Linux happened to be one of my favorite topics. Linux is the most important technology that's been there around the past few decades, and it's at the core of all everything that we use today, from cell phones to laptops to servers, and everything that we see today has Linux at the core of it. And such an important tool was taught in so much of an uninspiring and unengaging and boring way, where our instructor came in and read out commands from a book and wrote out the Linux commands on a board. We were given the steps that we had to do for labs in as a set of instructions in a PDF, and all we did was just blindly copy and paste them onto our laptops, and without understanding really what it did or why we were supposed to learn that. Now, before I get into gamification, I just want to quickly go over take a step back and go over the origin of schools and how the current educational system came to be. So there's this very interesting talk by Mr. Khan from Khan Academy. It's available on YouTube, and it talks about the history of education in the past 2 centuries. So it started with the Prussian Model in the 1800s, and that's really the model that classified students based on their age into different grades. So, 6-year-olds to grade 1 or 7-year-olds are going to be part of grade 2. So that's that particular model. And then in the 1870s, public education became common around the world. Before that, education was only for the richest. But since 1870s, it became very common. And in 1892 is when a committee of 10 people led by the president at Harvard at the time came together and standardized education and curriculums in schools. So that's how it came to be standardized, that what topics are taught in what levels at different grades throughout the school. And since then, we've been following that very same standard for over 100 years. The different grades from 0 to 12 and what's taught in which grade. It's slightly different in different countries based on the curriculums, but that's kind of the same standard that everyone's stuck to. And then in the late in 90s, we had the internet, and things changed. But we were still following the kind of the same standards that were set. Now, don't get me wrong, this worked, right? The past century saw the most number of scientists, doctors, and engineers the world has ever seen, as compared to any other time in the past. And that kind of accelerated the technological advancements just in the past 100 years. As you can see, just in the past 100 years, there's been so much technological advancements thanks to the educational systems in place. Now, one of the challenge with such a high growth in technological advancements is the need for technical skills. So if you look at today, technical skills for cybersecurity, IT automation, and cloud architecture are some of the most common areas of skills shortage. As reported by this report from Indeed, cloud computing and e-commerce tech skills for especially technologies like Kubernetes have grown 200%, close to 200% year over year. And the Cloud Native Computing Foundation user growth or adoption growth has increased exceptionally in the past few years. Now, the challenge with technical education is that college curriculums are not able to cope up with the high speed at which technology is evolving. So new programming languages, new frameworks are being introduced every day, and there's not enough time for these to go into college curriculums. And so by the time students graduate, they are unable to they do not have those skills to get jobs, but companies and corporates who require these skills require the students to have these skills. So there's that gap. And also the education model, as I talked about earlier, it's taught in the most unengaging and uninspiring way. This is one area that requires a lot of hands-on experience, hands-on practice. And the current educational system, especially in the tech world, is in an engagement crisis. There are so many online learning platforms available out there, and all of them have really low engagement rates or course completion rates. So what can we look at to see and improve engagement in learning? So we need to learn from games to teach better. So I've been a gamer from a very childhood. I used to play a lot of games in schools and colleges. Not the shooting games as most of the kids today play, but more of strategy games, like for example Age of Empires, or these games teach a lot of things, from managing resources to strategizing plans, building alliances, solving the same problem in multiple different ways. And because games are where people volunteer, and so volunteer in quotes, to take challenges, obstacles, and put efforts, mostly without extrinsic reward. So you don't need to push any kid to play games. You just have to introduce the game, and they just continue playing that. So imagine if education was like that, where you don't have to push people or kids to learn. They volunteer to learn. Imagine if they could spend the same amount of hours that they would spend on playing games to learn or for education. So that the epic win phase that you don't see in classrooms, right? We want to see more of this. This is when you win something in a game. That's the epic win phase, but you don't see that in classrooms anymore. But we want to see more of that in classrooms. Now, before I talk about what gamification is, let me first explain what it is not. So when we talk about gamification, what people think about immediately is points and badges and leaderboards, right? So when you try to gamify something, what people do is just put in some points and badges, but that's not really what gamification is all about. Of course, there are elements for this, there are places for these, but that's not what it is about. And we'll talk about what it is about in a minute. And it does not also make learning easy. Now, we all know that learning something is hard. You need to spend hours and hundreds and thousands of hours and of practice to learn something. So gamification is not going to reduce that from 1,000 hours to 100 hours. You still have to spend those hours learning things, but it just makes it voluntary. It just makes it interesting, so that you're just hooked to learning, and you just keep doing that. You just keep practicing until you actually learn. So I want to introduce the Yu-Kai Chu, who is a gamification and behavioral design expert. You can see his TED Talks online, as well as he has a book and a course on gamification and behavioral design. So he introduced the Octalysis framework of gamification. So these are 8 core drives that make gamification fun. So if you're building a game or trying to gamify something, this is what you should start with. You should start with these core drives in mind, and then that's how it's going to be successful. So these are epic meaning, accomplishments, empowerment, ownership, social influence, security, unpredictability, and avoidance. So epic meaning is all of the games have a narrative, right? You're going to save the world, or you're going to rescue somebody who's trapped somewhere, or the mission may be to, if it's a sports game, then it may be to win the World Cup or something like that. So that's the epic meaning. So all the games must have that narrative, the goal, the big goal. And then you have accomplishments. So accomplishments are small wins. That's where you're learning new things as you play the game, and you complete different levels, and you accomplish small things as you go. Then you have empowerment and creativity. So that's where you use creativity to solve a problem in multiple different ways. And then you have ownership. So that's where you create your own profile, your avatar. You own something in the game. It could be resources, this could be points, this could be badges, it could be virtual money that you have within the game. And then there's social influence. So that's when you get interactive with others in the game. So you find other people who are like-minded, you join with them, you create a team, and you learn together, or you play together, and you win group missions together. And then you also talk about that. And then there's scarcity. So that's the drive where you want to do something because it's not available. So maybe there's time limit on the game, and then you want to finish it before that. And then there's unpredictability and avoidance. So unpredictability is where is the drive where you're curious. You're trying to just even though you've completed your mission, maybe you're just exploring around and just because you're curious, right? And so in our labs, once they complete a lab and they're actually done with the task that they're supposed to do, some of our students just stay around and be curious and play around with it. So that's that particular drive. And then there's avoiding something bad that may be happening. Just avoiding, like within the game, it could just be avoiding death or something like that. So let me talk a little bit about how we at Code Cloud gamify higher education. So as I said, we are a higher education platform. We teach technical skills like programming, Linux, and computer science in general. And when it comes to higher education, most of the trainings that are out there are just videos of people sharing the screen and showing what to do and how to do. And that's what we are trying to change, and that's what we're trying to gamify using our platform. So first of all, games are interactive and hands-on. And at Code Cloud, all of our courses are interactive. So we have videos. We have a 30 to 70% ratio, 30 to 70 ratio between videos, that's theory, and hands-on practice. So so our students watch short videos of what to do and how to do things, and then they immediately jump onto their hands-on labs, and that's where they spend most of the time. All of our courses have these labs that, as you can see here, you have a terminal on the right, you have a set of tasks on the left, and you also have a timer at the top, so everything has a time limit. Games are challenging, right? So traditional education, so 10% of so we retain 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we discuss with others, and 80% of what we've personally experienced, and 95% of what we teach others. Right, so traditional education is mostly around the first few, which is 10, reading, hearing, and seeing. But what we are focusing on is the last few, which is personal experience, getting their hands on, and also teaching others. So we encourage our students, we build communities, and we encourage students to talk to each other, help each other out, and what you learn by helping each other out is you retain that 95%. So traditional educational systems provide these kind of steps for hands-on practice as a PDF with just a list of instructions, right? And students just go through and just copy and paste them, and they're without actually doing them. So we don't provide steps or solutions. Instead, what we do is we give them challenges, we give them tasks. And only if they fail to do, they can actually view the solution. So our students see the task, and then they are then exploring and researching, and they're trying to find solutions to those tasks by themselves. So that's one way that we make learning, that we gamify learning by helping them solve challenges on their own. Games have haptic feedback. Instant feedback. So our labs, in our labs, as I said, we provide a set of tasks. In this case, there are 3 things that our users have to do. And as soon as they say they're done and they click on the check button, we immediately check their work and give them feedback instantly. So there are automated scripts that we run in the back end to check their work and give them feedback. So in this case, the student did 2 of the things correctly, but not the 3rd one, and so it's marked incorrectly. So they know exactly what they did wrong, and then they can try again and again until they get it right. And this is another example where we have visualized what they have to do. We have an architecture diagram of an application that's deployed on a cluster, and they're supposed to deploy the application using that visual support that there's there. And when they check their work, the areas that they have done correctly are marked in green, and those that they haven't done correctly are marked in red. So they can then click on those and know exactly what they did wrong and how it was wrong. Games have a steep curve, and they get harder at your pace. So all of the games start slow, and then they get harder as you continue to play. So we have a Code Cloud program called Code Cloud Engineer, where our students join a virtual company as an employee, and then so it's a fully automated program. So they give in their particulars, they give in their experience, and they're categorized into one of these different levels. So these roles are match real roles that are available in industry today. So the basic level is the systems administrator, and then you have the DevOps engineer, and then the DevOps architect, and depending on their skill levels, they're categorized into one of these, and they get tasked as if you would get a task from a real company when you join a company, right? So you get an email with the instructions, and then you follow the instructions and complete the task. And all of the tasks are validated, and we give them feedback on what they did right and what they did wrong. And as you complete tasks, you accumulate points, and once you accumulate enough points, you're promoted to the next level. So there's this real work-like environment that we have created, which is completely gamified, and our students love going through this particular track and gaining points, and they're eagerly waiting for their next task to be assigned. Drawing the macro picture and having clear learning paths. So gamers, so this relates to the epic meaning that I talked about earlier. So gamers know their end goal, and they're working towards that end goal. So we have multiple learning paths that we have defined on our platform. So if you want to be a certified expert or a DevOps expert or a Kubernetes expert, you can choose the path that you want to take depending on your current skill set. So you always start from the basics. You get your basics right. This could be basics in Linux, basics of applications, development, and other things. And then you choose the right track, and then you complete courses one after the other, and then ultimately get certified. Games offer communities of various skill set, pace, and ambition. So this is what I talked about, building communities, and that has been one of our core focus. So we've built communities through Slack channels, through online forums, and we have communities of 30,000 plus students who are along the same, who have the same goal who are along the same kind of path to achieve their goal. And they're constantly on real time interacting with each other, helping each other clear their doubts and learn technology. So when we built the community initially, we were not sure how to support most of these thousands and thousands of students in these channels. So we hired a number of teaching assistants to look after them. But then we realized that the students have started to support each other, and we didn't really need to have that many kind of assistants to be available all the time. Gamers love accomplishments, of course. That's the core drive. So we provide trainings for certifications that are industry proven, such as Kubernetes certifications or Python certifications, and these certifications help you get jobs at big companies, and our students love getting certified, going through our courses and getting certified and talking about them. So that's the next one about social influence, finding others who are traveling along the same path and then sharing about their success stories is one of the core drive. So our students love completing their certifications and sharing their stories on LinkedIn, and they tag us. So all of these that we've implemented, the gamification principles that we've implemented in our labs and courses, it works. So here are some numbers that prove that. So we provision 1,000 plus exclusive labs to our students every hour. So there's like 1,000 students, 1,000 different students accessing our labs every hour, and we have a 60% retention rate for all the plans that we have on our platform. If you look at the completion rate, so what you see in green are students who have completed a lab every day. So we have about 70% lab completion rates. So those who start the lab work all the way to the end. And so compared to some of the common online learning platforms, these completion rates are really really high. So yeah, that's about what I had to say. So with the latest advancements in technology and the tools that are available today, we can rethink the way that we teach students, especially in the tech field, with so many new tools that are available. It makes it really easy to gamify education and bring about a change. So thank you so much.
Does anyone have a question for Mumshad, or was it crystal clear? A question there, okay.
Hi. So one of the things that we do is in design, we do design thinking, and one of my roles is to create workshops. In terms of maybe a new way of looking at workshops in design thinking, do you think that gamification of the process itself is possible in a non-technological manner?
Yeah, so you mean, just so I understand, right?
So let me put it in context.
Yeah.
I'll make your life a bit simpler. So when we do these workshops, it's with people who have never done design thinking before. Okay, they've never approached it, they've never worked with it. And they are not tech people. Usually they're just people who are in your day-to-day jobs, consulting firms, stuff like that. When we do design thinking with them, we break down the process for them, we give them a task, and we get them to execute it. But we always see that a lot of people don't enjoy that process very much. So is there a way that the gaming principles that you described here, which have a good result in the technological side of things or the skill-based side of things, is there a way to apply those, do you think, in an analog situation?
Got it. Yeah, absolutely. That absolutely makes sense. So first of all, I just want to clarify. So everything that I talked about, right, the gamification principles are applicable to almost anything, right? It's we just happen to be a tech company helping students in the tech field. So that's the only reason I chose those examples. In fact, I think it's kind of harder to do it in the tech field, and it's more done in the other fields that you talked about. So as long as we stick to the 8 core drives of gamification, I believe this can be done. The gamification principles can be done in anything, even outside of the whole tech field.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, one more question right here.
Hello. Do you have a platform for employers who are looking for your graduates?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, our platform itself is also for employers. So we have individual students as well as we have businesses who use our platform to teach their employees. So yes, we do.
So specifics, if I had a specific need, I could ask you to set up a process of teaching employees who I would then be able to employ to the specifications that I need. Did I understand that?
Yeah, no, not as of today. We don't actually have that because most of our programs are very specific to the area of focus that we have, which today is, DevOps and cloud computing, which are all of the basic things. But we did do that at one point, catering to, creating custom courses and learning paths for very specific needs. It's something that we want to do in the future too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Mumshad.
everyone. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.